it's funny how sometimes things happen where, uh, like I was saying, impromptu things that are unscheduled and all that. I don't know a lot of this stuff is gonna transpire, but even though it wasn't related to the Sunday school lesson, it actually prepared us for the Sunday school lesson. First and foremost, the title is called The Marriage of Isaac, and the lesson focus is actually God blesses a servant's heart.
Right.
And what we're gonna do, we're just gonna omit the opening anecdote. We're gonna get to the first question. When we look at a servant's heart, we're not talking about the physical organ, but we talking about the real person. And one of the things I always say, a person's true character is going to be revealed during conflict or during hardship. And one of the things, I spoke a little bit on the conflict last week, but also even pertaining to hardship, because what's in a person going to come out. But when it comes down to hardship, you know that there are people that do anything for money. There are people, if they have some money, you may not see their true character or their true motive. But let them be a person that's going through something. And a lot of times when they are dealing with some type of hardship, financially or whatever, a person will steal when the opportunity comes. Because number one, that's within them, and also they have a need to do in their mindset because they're dealing with some type of hardship. So when it boils down to it, being able to understand a person's true heart or the identity of a real or true person. Question one asks us, what does it mean when we say that someone has a servant's heart? What does that mean when we say that someone has a servant heart? Or if you want to say, what does it mean to you when you hear that someone has a servant's heart?
It's someone that's really willing to help out and not expect something in return.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, selfless. Like I said, willing to help others without looking for something in return. That's their response. They're willing to help, willing to serve. Selfless. Question two, who do you know that has a heart like this? And then how do they reflect it?
I've seen, on a personal note, I've seen my mother do that for years. She would help people, and sometimes I would, like her actually family members who would really kind of take advantage of her time. She would help them, do a lot of stuff, and I always thought that, she should, get something in return for it, even when I look back on it. Been many hours helping them out. Um, Never fussed. She never said, anything about it. She just went on. In fact, she helped them out, and until she couldn't help them out anymore. And then here at church, I could go on and on, but I'll speak to Pastor Logan and Sister Logan. How they serve. I spoke a little bit about it last week, but they're here when they, if they're in town, they're out of town right now, but if they're in town, they're gonna be here. They founded this church. It's just wonderful to be able to kind of follow in their footsteps because, like I said before, it's more of them being devoted to God and having that servant's heart and being here for us and for God, number one, but then opening their heart to us. So
Yeah, good.
Oh, I was gonna say that one right there, Anthony.
Yeah,
yeah, brother
Yeah.
Anthony. Yeah,
yeah. It's a lot of people.
Yeah,
A lot of people here.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we even want to acknowledge, those here, Brother Hanson.
Brother
A lot of
Hanson,
people,
right.
To him, he may not say anything, but just his presence.
Right.
His presence says a whole lot.
That's
And
right.
a lot of times, he like to make sure he like to stand behind the scene.
Right.
He's not the type of person that's going to be in the front.
Right.
That's not him. He don't want to. But on the other hand, he's a great supporter.
He's a great supporter.
And you
Right.
can tell because he does it effortless.
Mm-hmm.
And he deliberately makes sure to move from the spotlight to make sure that someone else get the recognition. I appreciate you, and
Yeah.
and even a lot of times when you think that he's not paying attention, he's very observant.
Right. Right.
He watching you. And a lot of times when you think that, those kind of people, when you think that nobody cares, they be the main one. Hey, how you doing?
Right,
They'll
exactly.
acknowledge something
Right.
about you that you think that nobody else was watching, but they were.
Right. That's right.
He'll say something, and a lot of times he may be very vocal at times.
Mm-hmm.
He may not be very vocal, but you have to understand his heart.
His heart.
Because
Right.
a lot of times, even what people don't understand, you can say something, but when you know a person's heart, their heart speaks 24/7.
Right.
They speak even through nonverbal communication.
Right.
So when you know a person's character, when you know a person's heart, then you like, man, I feel him. What did he say? He didn't say nothing. How you say he felt it? Because when he shook our
And
hand,
shake his hand.
he
Right.
put love in it.
Right.
When he say how you doing, he was saying that from his
From
heart.
his heart.
Not
Right.
his mouth, he was speaking from his heart.
That's right.
So those kind of people are the ones when you know that you're going through something, those are the ones that God will dispatch your way to help encourage you. There's a guy that used to work for President Obama, and he worked for CNN now, I believe. His name is Van Jones. Van Jones was actually one of Prince's personal friends, and he used to work for, like I said, President Obama. And when Prince got in contact with him, told him for 10 days, and when he heard from God, then come back and let him know what he's going, what God tells him to do, and Prince to help support him. And so, make a long story short, Van Jones said, when things are going well, you're not gonna hear from Prince. But when you're at your lowest, when it seemed like nobody cared, it seemed like all of a sudden, out the blue, he'll call you. He didn't have a cell phone, so he used other people's cell phone. He'll reach you. Before anybody found out what you were going through, before it became that you were going through something, Prince would call. Now, I use Prince as an example to let you know that God will use anybody to get to you, to get to a message to let you know that God cares about you. You're on God's heart. And God will send people at the right time. Unfortunately, sometimes we desire certain people, or sometimes we have specific people in mind, and those are not the people that God's trying to send.
Right.
That's it.
Because a lot of times, the people that we expect to hear from are the ones that will contaminate what God has for us.
Mm-hmm.
We look for an encouraging word, and those people will come with a discouraging word. So God knows what's best and who's best to send.
There it is.
So as long as we have a heart for God and a servant heart ourselves, God will send servant-hearted people to service
Right.
service-hearted people.
Right.
So just know that like-minded people, or if you want to say spiritual-minded people, people have the heart of God, focus on God and everything. in this life journey, God will send people at the right place at the right time. They call something called courtesy patrol. Courtesy patrol, when you have a flat, when you need assistance, roadside assistance,
That's
God will, we can call them and they will come at no charge.
Right.
And when we look at it on the natural, don't you know God will do the same thing in the spiritual?
Right.
A lot of times we don't make that correlation. Because sometimes when we go through something, sometimes, being real, sometimes it's so heavy that we can't see the forest from the trees. Sometimes when we go today, it's easy for us to encourage somebody else when they're going through.
It is.
Sometimes we give them a rhema word from God, and they are very appreciative, and they say, oh, that's what I needed. And it encourages us because we encourage them.
Right.
But oh, when we going through something, it seems like nobody around. But I found out something. I found out when we helping somebody that's going through something, who are in an agreement is two people. It's us that's encouraging them, but it's also them because we helping them to understand that if you can agree with what I'm going to tell you, on what he said, then it's two right there, touching and agreeing.
Right.
And God is right there in the midst.
Right. There it is.
But when we go through something, sometimes we already hurt. And sometimes the devil will make us think that nobody cares because we don't see anybody coming our way to help. Or even like I was saying earlier, sometimes how we expect certain ones to come. And those certain ones are the ones that's not coming. And then all of a sudden, God may give us a word through a little kid. God may give us a word even through a text.
Right.
God may give us a word even through a television. It's some way, somehow, that God will send a word, but he wants us to, if you want to say, get him out the box. Because we expected a person, but he wants us to know, you know what? I may not send a person, I may send a direct word to you through a text message. Or you cut on TV, you cut on trying to watch The Price is Right. And all of a sudden, there's a little snippet. It's something may be said that catch your attention, help you snap back to reality. So, however method that God uses, when we going through something, ask God to help us to not look at who's going to send it, but as long as he sent it, it's fine enough for me. So when it boils down to that servant heart, I'm going to say it like this. Servant heart gives, but also servant hearted people are the ones that also actually get hurt. People who give, I don't know too many people who are known to have a giving heart have not been hurt before. I don't know too many. Brother Hanson, you said this some years ago. As great of a heart that you have, you help many people, right? But you have, I've known that you have given money to help people. But have some have promised you that they're going to pay you back and you ain't heard from them since?
Oh man, how many?
See? And let's be real. A lot of us have been in that situation. A lot of them have been close friends, family members, church members, whatever. A lot of them, a lot of them sometimes play on our heart. They'll say key words because, you know what, they want to do this for their child. Now, I'm going to take a chance, not because of their integrity, but because of their intent for their child.
Right.
I'm going to do that. They may have used me in the past, but this time they said they want to do it for their child. So I'm going to go ahead and take a chance and do it. And you don't hear from them again. You don't hear from them, but you know, okay, you
That's
did this
right.
for the child, but you know the next time you're gonna say no.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say it like this. We gonna go back to the lesson, but I'm gonna say this. I have to be prayerful and wise when it comes down to people asking me if I can help them in a certain situation. I had somebody years ago, I had somebody to say they wanted me to help them. That's what they said. They said that, and right before I was getting ready to go help them, God put something in my spirit. Since I said it, I ain't gonna say the person's name, but I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of say it like this. Right before I get ready to do it, I said, wait a minute. What about your boyfriend? What did he get? We'll come to find out. He was living with them. And he was using the money for something else, something illegal. I'm like, wait a minute. You talking about you want $10 for a diaper. But every time I look over to you all, y'all smell like weed and alcohol. So in other words, you want to use your money for the drugs and the alcohol, but you want to use my money to pay for diapers. That's bad arithmetic. How about you use that money? First of all, $10 for a diaper. How long will $10 for a diaper last you?
Not long. I ain't gonna buy.
I said a couple of hours.
Yeah, it ain't gonna.
And you think about it, especially when you have a poor diet. When you have a poor diet, you're gonna pass for it. So how about you using that money for your children and you feed them also? They got upset. Ain't heard from them since.
That's all right.
You can't feed your children McDonald's 3 times a day.
Right.
You spending more money on alcohol and drugs than sustenance for yourself and for your children.
Right.
The necessities that you need, you're not paying for it. You paying your money for fleshly things that's gonna get you locked up or get you to an early grave.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Another thing people use, they find your weak spot. Your weak spot is children.
Yeah.
And they use the children and say, I need to buy my kid that and my kid that.
Yeah.
That's how they get over this.
Yeah, see, because they know the kind of heart that you have.
Right.
So you have to be aware of the identity of your heart.
But what I start doing is, okay, bring them and I take the kid,
Yeah.
I buy it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta do.
When we start doing stuff like that, then I guarantee you our phone calls will stop pertaining to that specific person. Because a lot of times, now it's one thing when a person is on hard times and they want to do better. Or they trying to change.
But
That's one thing. We don't mind helping people who trying to change. But when you're not trying to change, when you're trying to get over on people, that's when God's gonna hit you in the spirit and say, you know what? This person crying wolf right now. They don't want to help. See, they hate the pain that they're going through, but they don't want to do the change to help them stop the pain. But when the fire gets hot enough, because right now, you might respond at 300 degrees. Oh, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that no more. But see, that might be room temperature to them. But as long as that fire keep getting hot, sometimes, because a lot of times, for those who have a servant heart, when they get tired of being used, what happens, it makes them become cold towards everybody. And it makes them become somebody that they're not. And so when real people who have real needs come across their path, before they used to help everybody. But because of being hurt, because of being used, they don't want to help nobody.
Right.
But see, God might have sent somebody who really need help. For you to not look at them as your past, but look at them as, you know what? They really need help. Let me help them. That's one of the tricks that the devil will try to do. So that way, like I always say, we become somebody that we actually not. You're not a hard person. You're not a mean person. You're a giving person. But the devil trying to taint us. Where? Right here in our heart. If we can become a hard person, then it make us reflect on our past instead of seeking God for the present and for the future. The last question asks, why is it important that we have a servant heart? Why is it important?
So that I wrote down so that others can be blessed through you. Kind of, you pretty much answered that question, and it helps bring people to God. If let's say I'm professing to be a Christian, and I go out, I'm helping people, they'll see that Christ in me, and then they may in turn, not say that it's automatic, but they may in turn want to be like me or be like Christ, and then that might bring them to God. So that's kind of what I wrote down.
Yeah. Anybody? Go ahead.
Can I answer it personally?
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes me feel good. I feel good.
That's it.
I just feel good when I do something for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and your motive of doing it is genuine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna share some things later on, but remember that question because we're gonna revisit it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But God wants our attitude and our actions to reflect His character,
Right.
and those things will help us to be able to allow people to see the God of the Bible in reality.
Right.
Because one thing we always say, a lot of people, let's be honest, a lot of people ain't gonna read the Bible. Those who don't know God, they're not gonna read, a lot of them not gonna read the Bible. They wanna see the Bible. I don't care how I tell Brother Hanson, I don't care how I tell Samuel, you need to come on to church. God loves you and everything, okay? But let me see God's love through you.
That's it.
A lot of times, many people always say, well, you know what, it's too many fake people at the church. And I'm going to say this. They say it's a lot of fake people at the church. Some of them say they've been hurt by the church. And those people who've been hurt, or those people who feel like there's too many fake people in the church, those are the main ones that need to be in the church. Why is that? Because a lot of times when we have gone through either a church hurt or we say people that are fake in the church, that means that if they're fake, it's time for some real people to be revealed.
I want to say one thing to that, because I actually went through that, but you were right in saying that those are the people that need to be in church, because the first thing is their focus is wrong. You don't focus on the people. You focus on God.
Right.
And so when you come to church, I don't care who's doing what. I got to get this salvation for myself. The other people can't get it for me. Now, yeah, it's good to be encouraged. It's good to, have fellowship in God. That's all wonderful and joyous. But when it comes to your salvation, that's on you. I actually had this conversation with a family member. That's on you.
Yeah.
You can't. I can't expect that. If there's fake people, if I'm the only person that's not fake in the church, because there's fake people all around the world. So where you gonna go? We all, and one of the things I learned about this Bible, we all one people. So, and then I don't want to interrupt you, Leslie. I'm trying to be short, but my point is that don't focus on people, focus on God. And then you want, I think, brother, Pastor, he comes,
Minister Hall.
Mr. Hall did that thing, but, we got to have our focus on God and be focused in his word, because when we start to focus on people, that's the wrong thing to focus on.
Yeah, and see, a lot of time, a lot of people, they don't know how to get over that hurdle of coming to church and tuning yourself out from people within the church.
Right.
Because this is what I found out. I grew up in church and all this stuff, and I just assumed that everybody grew up in church. I didn't know this until probably 20 years ago. I assumed that everybody
Right.
grew up in church.
Right.
I thought everybody's routine on Sundays was to go to church. I thought, I'm gonna say something else. I thought everybody that came to church that dressed the part was a part.
Right.
I thought if a lady had on a dress and she was saying amen, she was saved, filled with the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
I thought the man that had on that nice suit came in with his family. I thought that he was saved. I thought he was faithful.
Yeah.
I thought he was committed to the word of God. Being
right.
real with you.
That's right.
I thought so.
That's right.
So all of a sudden when reality came, that's when I realized what in the world is going on. And I realized, you know what? Now I cannot be responsible for their actions.
Right.
But in spite of, I had to make sure that I knew God for myself.
That's right.
But also, even with, if you want to say, the past hurt or church hurt or whatever, I found out that the devil wanted to use that as an opportunity
Right. To keep you away.
to get my mind off of God, but also to fulfill the purpose and plan. Now, true enough, like you said, we got to keep our eyes on God.
Right.
But also, what we have to realize, when the devil either bring us suggestions or try to bring other people suggestions, you don't need to go to church because they're fake people.
Right.
Or you don't need to go to church because you've been hurt by the church people. It might have been, first of all, it's not the church, because Christ is the church, it's the church people, the people in the church. Those are the ones that hurt.
No.
Oh, I think you say, yeah, your mind and eyes and soul on you. But that's why I say let your light shine.
Yeah. We have to reflect Christ. But one of the things that the devil will try to do, will try to discourage us from coming to church, or even it's all with coming out to church or fellowship.
Right.
He will try to discourage us because he feel like ain't nobody real, so what's the use of going?
Right.
And that's the opportunity for us to go, like you said, not because of them, but because of people or are tired of fake people. That's an opportunity for us to be real, let our light shine, because when God will send people that are really hungry.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that's going to be really hungry, but if we refuse to be in our spot, then who's going to help them? Because like I always say, we help to one another. We need each other.
We need each other, right?
I don't care how good I may study fast by myself, but I'm strengthened when I come to the household of faith with my fellow brothers and sisters.
Right.
And the devil wants to alienate us from that.
Right.
So we have to remember, it's a trick of the devil. Because ultimately, if you've been hurt by some people within the church, if you boil down to it, it's something that the devil trying to blind you from, because it's actually part of a purpose that God has for you in your life.
Right.
If you know any situation that you've dealt with in your life, any situation, not just those that you had no involvement in when you're innocent, but even those that you have fallen prey to, is something that's going to help you prepare for your purpose and plan your life. Betty Ford was known as an alcoholic, all those things. She was addicted to many things. But when she got her healing, when she got a recovery from that addiction, what did she do? She went back and opened up a rehabilitation center.
That's right.
To help so many people. And because of what she dealt with, instead of her sitting down, and it took courage for her to admit, you know what, I had a problem.
Right.
And now I've been helped from my problem. So now what I'm gonna do, I know how to reach those that's going through the same thing that I went through. And because I'm not gonna sit down, that helped her and they helped so many people. I believe they're in Hollywood, is somewhere around that coast. But they are known, the Beta Force Center is known to be one of the #1 places that a lot of the celebrities go to because it's effective.
Right.
The resources are there to help. And so realizing that even in the midst of that, we have to make sure that our heart is pure. And it reads like this. It says, as I transition into my retirement years, I find that I have more saving over the financial resources to do so. I also have been blessed with good health, a comfortable home, and a wonderful companion to share my day only for my God. He wants others pursue. They can enjoy what I enjoy. He wants me to invest into activity, meet the emotional and physical needs of others. He wants me to give up some of those times when I want to sit back and meditate for a while, or should have had my glasses on, or see what else is on TV, be a listening ear to the ones that I've committed my life to.
Right.
The wonderful wife I married, as well as to others who need to know that they are loved and that they care, that God cares for them. In short, God wants me to have a servant's heart by using resources He's given me in ways that enrich the lives of others. One thing I expect in return from becoming given up will be returned to me in much greater measure. I have also been guilty of the way I try to exhibit a servant's heart. Question 10 asks us, what does
This is, for me, it's like the passage. I'm going to be able to bless others. And like you brought up, not to be used by others, but to bless others. So that's what I got.
Anybody? Question 11 asks, what does this have to do with having a servant's heart?
I guess in order to bless others, you have to be willing to serve others.
Okay. Same? Okay. Question 13, what are some benefits of doing so? Yeah.
I like what Sister Martha said. It gives you a good feeling. You know, that's a good benefit. You feel good after you help someone.
Yes, to see other people blessed is very encouragement. It sets them free and it sets you free too. I want to bring up a couple of quick things. Also, it does this. It develops a deeper trust for God to have within you.
That's right.
Because a lot of times it's easy for us to say, you know, oh God, I trust you. Oh God, I trust you. Yeah, you trust God to help from a pure heart. No ill motive, because we always say, you know, man looks on the outer appearance, but God looks at the heart.
Right.
And that heart meaning what? God looks at your motives.
Right.
God looks at your intent.
Your intent. Right.
God knows it.
Right.
And to be honest with you, a lot of times God will reveal through people that they know your intent. So it's a couple things I want to bring up before we get ready to close. It frees you. But also what we have to understand, what really helps us and help us to grow spiritually, emotionally, mentally, is when we pour ourselves out to others. Like I said, it builds up that trust that God can have within us. But also, when we empty ourselves out, it makes room for us to be able to expand to receive more. That's the reason why I found out people that are gifted in a certain thing, when they put their whole heart into it, it increases them more. It gives them more ability. Now, the Bible tells us to stir up the gift. Y'all heard that before? Stir up the gift. He's not talking about talent. He's talking about spiritual gifts. And we have to learn what our spiritual gifts are.
Right.
And a lot of times people mix talent up with gifts and wonder why they become spiritually frustrated. I don't care how much I love this person right here. But if God is telling me to pray for him or to talk to him, me begging him a cake, talented people, instead of spiritual gifts, they're trying to substitute it with the talent. And they wonder why they're not effective. But God wants us to use what he has invested into us. God has invested gifts. God has invested things into us, and he wants us to utilize it. And that's what's going to help us to grow. That's what's going to help us to fulfill the purpose and plan that he has for us. If you don't do it, you're going to become spiritually, mentally, emotionally frustrated. And that's why many people are frustrated, because they're operating in the area that God did not tell them to do. They're doing something that God didn't tell them to do. They just think that me doing this is good enough. And that ain't good enough. And that's why you still feel empty. You still feel a void. Because you're not pouring out your real self. So, in order for us to have a servant's heart, we have to empty out ourselves. In other words, do all you can. Right. And do it with the best of your ability. Do it with your whole heart, regardless of others. Independent from others.
Right, right.
Also, we look at, in the Bible, it talks about 3 talents. One utilized what they had, another one utilized what they had, but then the third one, he buried it. He had 1 talent, and he buried it. That talent being money. He buried it, but the one that had 2, utilized it. The one that had 5, utilized it. But a lot of times when it boils down to us, because we feel that it's not important, we feel that it's not important, or we feel that nobody paying attention, we'll bury it. And we wonder why I'm not saying struggling financially, I'm talking about struggling emotionally.
And spiritually.
Struggling spiritually. Because we're not emptying out. We're doing just enough, but it still ain't good enough. God wants us to utilize everything. In other words, we have to allow to get it out. The only way that we can be fulfilled is if we empty ourselves out. And that's the reason why most, like Bo Jackson, everybody talking about Bo Jackson, back in the day, Bo knows. Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders. They were both great baseball players and football players. They were able to do both. And then all of a sudden, which first, Bo Jackson, they weren't the first double athletes, but they were the more recognizable ones. he used what he had and it expanded his gifts, his talents. But the same thing that they did is the same thing we have to do. And so when it boils down to who we are within the church, so that way we can be effective outside of the church, we have to do it with our whole heart, and we have to do it where it empties us out.
Right.
Like when we work out, the only way your muscles can grow is if they have a good workout. You let it burn out. And once you burn it out, it's going to be rebuilt. And once it rebuilt, it's going to grow back bigger. But in order for it to grow bigger and stronger, it has to be emptied out.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have anything on reserve. When you love someone, you want that person to give you what? Their whole heart.
Right.
Not just what they have in their hand, but also what they're holding behind their back.
Mm-hmm.
Same way pertaining to God, but also the same thing pertaining to our purpose. We have to empty ourselves out. And the key thing is, not only in emptying ourselves out, but do it regardless of the other people's response. I'm going to say
There it
this.
is.
Say this, we're going to get ready to close it up. A lot of times, people want to have that servant heart, and a lot of times they have allowed their past, or they have allowed certain things to block them. I found this out. A lot of times, people will try to confess or try to apologize. Let's just say I do something to, I'll say, Brother Sam. Brother Sam did me wrong. Now, I know him. He's a good person or whatever. He want to apologize. But Brother June, I'm so sorry I did you wrong and blah, blah, blah. No, don't say another word. Man, it's all right. I forgive you. Now, I forgave Brother Sam what he done. But don't you know I prevented him from getting the healing that he needs, because I prevented him from confessing it and saying out of his mouth.
Right.
Even with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
I love him, I forgave him, even when he did it. But in order for him to get that release, I have to allow him to get it out. And a lot of times, those are the things that really have stopped people from getting that help or getting that cleansing that they need, because we're preventing people from confessing. The Bible tells us we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. But unfortunately, many people, we have prevented people from confessing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why a lot of times when we think, oh man, you should have gotten over that a long time ago. Yeah, I tried to, but you wouldn't allow me to. So what you have to do is listen to me. Let me confess. Let me get this out. If not for your sake, but for my sake. And that's going to help people to have that servant's heart when we allow them to confess their fault, or can confess whatever situation that they need to for them to get it out. Therapists, they do the same thing. They listen. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they listening for key words for them to be able to what? Give back to us. Mm-hmm. And all they're doing is just repeating the same thing that we told them.
Right.
So in order for us to be able to be effective and have that servant heart that God has for us too, let's give every situation, every hurt, everything over to God. Mm-hmm. God will help us and God will cleanse us. And even when it boils down to it, God himself will not only heal your heart, but he'll give you a brand new heart. He'll give you a brand new mind. But we have to allow God to have it by what? Giving everything to him. We're going to consider ourselves dismissed. We thank you for everyone who tuned in, those who came in. Thank God for you all. Thank God for Brother Logan, Reverend Logan, Jack Logan, Uncle Jack. Thank God for those that are here, and we're going to consider ourselves dismissed from Sunday School.
All right. Appreciate you, brother. Awesome. All right, man. That was awesome.
It